Hi, my name is Michael Bean, and this is your free lesson for myfreeactingclass.com. This is week 4 of 8 in the spring session. We have students who have committed to coming back and workshopping live each week, and so hopefully that will be more instructive than me just telling you what I think is useful. Uh, One of the things that's really on my mind as an artist, as an actor, as a teacher this week is the new paradigm of self-tapes and the way that that is affecting folks. There were a couple of really interesting articles. I can put the links into the chat window if you like, but all you really need to do is search New York Times self-tapes or variety.com self-tapes. There are a couple of really interesting articles that were sent to me this week. And obviously, there is a lot of challenge anytime there's change. One of the things that was really significant in my home market, which is Vancouver, is that before the pandemic, it was very much a relationship-based market, that there were 8 casting offices that basically did everything, and there's just at any given time, there were only a couple of those casting offices that handled the really big stuff. And then everybody else was sort of like they'd have a series or something, but usually there would be like 1 or 2 or 3 casting directors that were working a lot doing big budget stuff, and then everybody else would be picking up a piece, but still only 8 offices. And so what that meant was that those 8 people would get to know you over time, and because they were bringing in for in-person auditions between 10 and 20 people, there really was a sense of like they're going to bring in bald white guys, but they're only going to bring in 10 or 20 for each bald white guy audition. And eventually they're going to be like, oh yeah, Michael Bean is that flavor of bald white guy. Like I remember him, I know who he is. Now, that was very frustrating for bald white guys who were having trouble getting auditions because or anybody in any of these sort of specific look-based categories. Because if they're only seeing 10 people, yeah, they're mostly going to see people they already know. They're mostly going to see people they're already familiar with because there are more options to choose from than they had spots for auditions. Now, in the new paradigm, casting directors it costs them nothing to ask for an audition from 100 people, from 150 people, from 200 people. And the last time that I had a conversation with a casting director who I just happened to be sharing space with, they said, when we ask for 150 tapes, we typically get about 80. Okay, right? That half of people who they're asking for tapes for from are submitting. Yeah, and so that I thought was interesting information. I don't know if that's common across the board. I have a hunch that the bigger a budget project, the more likely people are to jump on it. But I've also heard some conversation from actors who are who historically relied on film and TV to make a living, saying, it takes me a whole day of my time to do a 9-page audition and to do it well and to do it to my standards. And that felt okay when I was competing against 10 or 20 people. But if I'm doing that and it's 250 people, and maybe they're only watching the first 20 seconds, and that's a whole day of my time, then that's starting to feel bad to have longer odds. And so I just want to put it out there that this is still in flux and it may change. And there are different things being talked about, including sort of a digital sign-in sheet. If casting director, the idea being that if casting directors had to just record somewhere how many tapes they were asking for, then this would balance it out, maybe. It also may be that what actually happens in the auditions starts to shift in the next couple of years. It's also entirely possible that the industry will just continue to take advantage of people who want to work for free, i.e. actors, uh, and, and that attrition will cause some of those folks to burn out. And then it'll just be a matter of like, who's still there saying, yeah, sure, I'll work for free. I will continue to audition for free. but you're going to hear a lot of charged rhetoric on both sides. And I think that it is true that this new paradigm does genuinely open up opportunities for people who are having trouble being seen before. And if you're going out for smaller roles, I just don't think I don't think that it's a problem for you, especially if you're going out for just a couple of lines. Once you've got a system down where that doesn't take a lot of your time, great. So what if there's longer odds if you get to actually audition? Where previously in your first couple of years of having an agent, maybe you would audition a lot and maybe you would audition 3 times in a year. While casting directors were just, sort of sifting through the 800 options to choose their 10, from the folks in your gender presentation, age category, whatever. Right. So now you get an actual shot to do that. But you're also going to hear some very angry people who were used to being able to rely on the arts to make a living, who now can't, or really struggling because the field of auditions is opening up more. And so just knowing that that's happening maybe gives you some context for folks who are saying, this is the way it is and it's wrong, or this is the way it is and it's like this is a good thing for everybody. And there's always nuance with something like this. And so that's the self-tape world that we're in. Now, inside of that, let's just keep working on making our self-tapes as good as we can. But I want to keep coming back to my opinion about film and TV acting is that I want it to be additive to your life. And even if you are doing everything right now, I mean, really, the day before yesterday, I was talking to somebody who has 100 credits, who auditions regularly for 9 pages. And now that she's auditioning against 250 people for every role, she's booking very, very, very infrequently. And that's just a reality. So if that's a reality for people who are already multiple tiers above where you are in terms of what you're auditioning for right now, then I think that the incentive is to be an artist because it feeds your life in some way, and to build a life that you like where art is additive to it. Because if your happiness or worth as a person is contingent on booking work in film and TV, then you are taking a chance, right? And yeah, of course, passion is important. Of course, the folks who are the most passionate and dedicated over time are more likely to work. They'll just get more skilled. That's just true. And you're still the one who's got to live your life in between times. Yeah. And so I would say check in with yourself. And if the language that you're using or what you notice about the story in there is all of this will be worth it if I book XYZ, then you're taking a chance. And that if you can look at it instead as like, here's what I'm getting out of this right now. And here is what I'm doing to build the life that I want right now, where art is feeding me and nourishing me and making me more alive and connected to things. Then to me, that seems more supportive of your life as a whole, including your life as an artist. I mean, yeah, honestly, like somebody who walks in the room happy, or grounded at least, I think, is probably more likely to book than somebody who's like, this is my only shot at happiness. Oh God, please put me in the movie with Bruce Willis or I have no worth as a person. Right, like even if that's operating on some internal level that you're not completely aware of, I think, does that affect your chances at booking that role? Maybe, probably. If anything, it might make it, even if you are like a pretty grounded person, if that's operating below the surface, it might jack up your adrenaline levels so high that it becomes difficult to do skilled work. A peer of mine and another teacher once said to me, you can't do both at the same time. Like you can't be mean, she was talking about auditioning and going sort of onto the lot, for these like huge movie studios, because in LA, when you're auditioning, a lot of the times you're going into a casting office that is on one of these huge movie production lots. She's like, you can't be in awe and be the professional actor both at the same time. You just can't. You can't go on there like, oh, there's a movie star down there. Whoa, I'm on a film set. Ah! And be the person who's like, hey, I'm here to do a job, and I'm staying grounded and bringing what I can. Okay, so that's what's on my mind this week. Now, Duke says, how do agents feel about all this? Thank you for throwing the question to the chat window. I think that there is as much range of opinion with agents as with anybody. And I haven't talked to enough of them to say, here's the pattern that I'm seeing emerging. I think agents are still with the rest of us, noticing the thing, not sure what to make of it, just doing the best they can inside of this, right? I mean, this is one of the reasons why agents have bigger rosters. It's one of the reasons why agents don't represent only 20 people typically. Now, I think that actors who have established um, relationships with casting directors will probably, at least for the next couple of years, but maybe indefinitely continue to leverage those in the same way that past a certain point of notoriety, even in a massive market like LA, people are like, oh yeah, Alex, right? He was in that huge movie, and I know his face because I saw it on the paper, whereas in Vancouver, it's like, oh, Alex, yeah, I know him because I saw him for auditions a couple of times. Will those relationships still be meaningful for folks who, have a certain number of credits? Yeah, probably, at least in terms of like getting auditions. If those people don't continue to book work, what will happen both to the people who are like, I can't give you this much of my time for free, and the agents who are like, we also have to eat, that's an open question. But right now it is opening up more opportunities for folks who are going out for smaller roles in a way that I think is interesting, and I think that you should just take advantage of. Right, like, and when actors wring their hands like, oh, there used to be so much work for us, then you can be like, well, that sounds really hard. Also, I'm really happy that now I have a shot too. Thanks. And we can, again, with nuance, we can also be compassionate, to folks who even before were giving away 4 or 5 days out of their week to audition for free, going in against what were even then fairly long odds. Like 1 in 20 is still not great odds if you're giving away your time, to audition. And so that's an open question about what will happen with that in the future. And I have guesses. My guess is that we're never going back to 10 or 20 people. Like LA, they've been seeing 100 people plus for roles for a very, very long time. It's just the rest of the world is now doing that as well. So the likelihood that we'll go back to like that tight little relationship market, I think, is very low. What that means or how to leverage that, lots of people have ideas, and some of them have enough conviction they'll try and sell you something. But I think it's an open question. And in the meantime, my genuine hope is that there will be an acknowledgement and possibly pressure from the actors union to reduce the number of pages that they can ask you to audition for. Like, to me, that seems like the easiest target, right? That as long as the expectation is, I'm gonna ask 250 people to do 9 pages of text for me, and those 250 people all care enough about that project that they will memorize those lines, do that tape, because they're like, oh my God, yeah, I've got a shot at this huge movie. That is making life really difficult, for actors who are at a tier that you might like to be at. And so my hope is that, we can not give into the hyperbolic hand-wringing of the folks who had more opportunities and now they have more competition. It's hard, I get it, but also that happens. While also, having some support and solidarity for the fact that it is not reasonable, to ask people to put in a day of their time. If if they're going out against 250 people, and who knows, like just because it's not reasonable doesn't mean it might not continue, right? Like that, it might stay that way forever. It might be just as totally unfair, as that, and it might stay that way. There are lots of different fields where the work artists put in is absolutely taken for granted. It's like, well, no, you love what you do. You're passionate. You get to do what you love. You should be so lucky as to give us your work for free. I mean, come on, you're paying for acting classes, right? Right. So I hope that shifts. Let's move on to working on these scenes. Duke, why don't we work your scene and then Christina's and then Alex's, and we'll look at Shoku's before we're done. Christina, are you set up to workshop? Yeah, because we can work yours while Duke's setting up. Yeah, so I gave Christina a scene from a show called Renegade Press, and where she got to have some attitude. She's really wanted to explore different emotional expressions. You can see that she's in approximately the middle of her frame. Her lighting is good. There's a little less eye light on this one, Christina. I don't know what was different about your setup. It might just have been that it was a cloudy day and you're used to using a window for light. But you'll see when we get into the tape, there's a little bit less eye light that I might like. But you're nice and loud and clear. Sounds like you're reading with another actor. And you're in that medium close up, top of your head down to just below your armpits.
Whoa, I want some of that. Excuse me? You want some of this? Come on then. Loser.
Alex, hi.
Hi.
That was awesome.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, but the way you handled them,
Don't you pick up along the way?
what way is that? I'm in your math class.
I know.
You're new here, right?
Yeah.
Want someone to show you around? Take you to the hangouts?
What did it for you?
Nothing. I mean, I worked at the underground. Everyone goes there.
The underground?
So just a quick reminder, everybody who's watching, I'd love you to throw in something specific that stood out for you when you were watching. So not, I liked it, you're great, which, feels good. I'm not going to stop you if you do that. But here is the part that stood out for me. Oh, when you did this, or when you said this, or this specific thing that you're doing stands out for me, is interesting to me. I like it. Here's the story I made out of it. It's those specifics, I think, that both hone your eye as an actor and can be the most useful in terms of feedback. And if you are somebody watching this lesson and you're unsure of how to invite feedback from people who are not actors, who are not taking acting classes, that's my advice on it, is ask them for specifics. Say specifically for you, what is the thing you liked about this? What kind of story did you make out of that? Because that's valuable information from literally anyone. Your mom, Uncle Frank, from the people at work, the people you're in school with, whatever. Their experience as audiences, if you can guide them towards specifics and story, can inform your choices. They're going to want to make global assessments of the acting, and some people will be kind about that, and some people will be like thoughtless about it. Oh, you should just be more mad. That's just proof that they are not in that world. And so you can, if you're asking for feedback, one of the things you can do is guide it towards specifics. Christina, there's a lot of great nuance here. This moment of taking in the girl who comes to talk to you.
Hi.
Hi.
Right? There's a world of opinion in that one, like, look her up and down, the tone of voice. There's so much going on there that we have to go into story. We can't be in sort of baby acting. Here is the feeling. It's like, no, this is the story that's happening and that I'm making out of it.
Awesome.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, but
right. So this piece of the scene seems like it was crystal clear for you. So I'm not going to workshop this piece. I'm just going to say specifically this opinion, this relationship, this interaction Solid, really, really works for me.
Please. I'm in your math class.
I know.
You're new here, right?
Yeah.
And so there's two places, Christina, where we could do some workshopping. One is the beginning, and I think that that's the one that I want to workshop with you because I think that's the part you'll be most excited about, which is like telling off, the guy who's being a jerk. Does it make sense? And then there's the very end, where I think you just weren't quite sure what to do there. And that was where your opinion of her asking you to come to a place and your opinion of the place, like those were not clear to me. And again, it's not bad. I think that a lot of people would listen to it and be like, wow, you sound like you're really having a conversation. But if we're listening with that next level of like, well, once we go into that professional world, there are parts of any scene, I think, where it's like, it's coming across a little generic. It's coming across a little bit unclear. And so I think you're not clear on the story. And I'm seeing you nod. For anybody who's not seeing Christina, I'll just add her here. I'm saying like, yeah, this is the part I think you didn't know what was going on. And I'm seeing her going, yeah. So let's move into, I'll remove myself and we'll move into workshopping the top of the scene. Let me just pull it up for everybody quickly, because I think that looking at the script together, will be helpful. Right, so Alex walks on as participants, as students continue to notice her, including Chris. Ooh, yeah, I want some of that. Alex stops and turns on him. Patty just around the corner, stops to watch. Excuse me, question mark, exclamation mark, off her body. You want some of this? Off his hesitation, come on then. Chris doesn't know what to do. Shakes her head, loser. She turns and strides off. And so that's the piece of this that I want to workshop with you, because that's the piece that, like, I don't think that you were aggressive enough with him for it to make sense that somebody comes up to you like, damn, that was so impressive.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and that's the story that you're in. So in order to justify Patty's response, you got to go further, right? You got to annihilate this guy. He thinks that he can catcall you in the hallway. Then you got to turn around like, oh yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Like, come on over. like we've got to see him be like, oh God, I thought I could do that, but no, I'm scared of you and I'm gonna run away. Well, like that's the interaction that has to happen to make the rest of the scene make more sense. And of course, that's going to be unfamiliar. Especially if you are, in BC, but really for a lot of people outside of, I don't know, maybe like I know some Israelis, who are, like grew up in a culture that's like totally supportive of that, where they're like, I can shout at somebody at the top of my lungs, and then like the next sentence I can talk to them casually about coffee, and there's no confusion about whether or not we like love each other. And I'm like slightly traumatized because of the yelling. The cultural differences have a big influence on what is and is not familiar or comfortable there. But let's take it from the top of that scene and just workshop it a little bit. I think that show me your eyeline for Patty. Right, so we want Patty just on one side of the camera, great. And then let's put Chris, the guy who makes the like cat call, on the other side, right? So over to your left. Yeah, a little bit further even, because we want to be really clear. Exactly, he's over there and he's much further away. So you're gonna have to raise your voice, because even if you happen to be right now in a very small room, we're gonna imagine that he's much further away, because that'll help you bring the volume without forcing it. Right? If you can just imagine, oh yeah, like even I would do that if I was that far away from him. Right, so you're minding your own business. You turn to face all the way to your left, as though you're just like, you've been walking down the hallway. Yep, all the way to your left. There you go. You've been walking down the hallway and you just stopped to like look at your watch or like check the clock on the wall. You just happen to have stopped here for this moment, and then exactly, so your eyes are elsewhere, and then phooey, I want some of that. And you flip your eyes over to Chris and just take him in, and take him in first. Exactly, and then you're going to take a little, and then you're going to take a little step towards him and yell down the hallway at him.
Excuse me, you want some of this? Come on then. Sorry, my voice is like.
Yeah. That's it though. No, that when your voice gets cracky, that's where we're gonna trust that what's going on, is on that level of uncertainty. So what you all just saw there was you saw Christina hit that point where she's like, this feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar. Something must be wrong. And then she stopped and apologized for it. Yeah. And very, very frequently, when actors are doing really alive, interesting work, they hit that point where they're like, whoa, this can't be working. Something must be wrong. And they stop. Often when it's really alive, when the work is really, really good. So one of the reasons I think you come to class is to build your own tolerance for that. And I end up talking to students about this quite regularly, and I've talked about it here in these lessons before, that you're building your tolerance for discomfort. It's like, how much weird can you handle? Because that's the fuel for the work. Right? So do it again. And now just take a little pause so that you can see each of those things land on him. Excuse me, and then like he looks at you like, what the hell, and then we've got the line off her body, and so in the script, exactly. And so, however you want to do that, where you're like, is this what you're after? You're like, come on over here, I'll kill you. Let me see you land each of those things on him so you can enjoy scaring the crap out of him and go further, and then enjoy him being like, I'm a misogynist jerk, and you're like, yeah, you are, and go after him more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. Right, so turn all the way to your left. You've just, we would want to start far away from this, stand by, or not physically far away, but I mean, emotionally, we could start with like, you're not expecting to be sexually harassed right now. You're just like, ugh, why are people so weird? I'm just trying to get to class. And so turn to your left, stand by, and action. Hooey, want some of that.
Excuse me?
And then pause.
You want some?
And then pause and stay standing up straight, because your impulse is to get down here. And if you're back here instead, if you're back on your heels, you're going to have more power. Okay, one more time.
Okay.
Hooey, I want some of that.
Excuse me. You want some of this? Come on, man.
Good. And then watch him walk off, like the worm that he is. Yeah, that's right. Better to watch him walk off on the other side so that you can shift to Patty on the other side of the camera. So watch him walk off to your left. You watch him walk off and have an opinion about that. Yeah. Ugh. Like, he sucks. I'm amazing. And then, hey, Alex. And then you.
Hi.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's the piece of the scene that was really working. And then if we were going to go and look at just these last couple of lines, I think you just need to take a little bit more time. I think maybe it might be as simple as just letting yourself pause. You're allowed to pause, especially if there's something going on. So I'm going to ask you if you're new here, and we're just going to run those last couple lines. You're new here, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you around. Take you to the Hangouts. You don't have to make faces. Just stay there. Just stay there. Just stay with her. Just stay with her. The timing alone will do the work.
What's in it for you?
Good. And that's part of it, is that you rehearsed how to say that line. And so it's coming up, up here, right? So now just say it like it's a fact. Like, you got to bust it down to just facts. Just ask, like,
what's in it for you?
There you go. Nothing. I mean, I work at the Underground. Everyone goes there. It's like, oh, you've actually heard of this place, and that sounds awesome. Or it's like, wait, you go to a cave, or you just have to have an opinion about the Underground, and you have to give it a second to land. Now let's take it from, you're new here. You're new here, right?
Yeah.
You want someone to show you around? Take you to the Hangouts?
What's in it for you?
Good. And you could have taken an extra second with that, but it was definitely more live. Nothing. I mean, I work at the Underground. Everyone goes there.
The Underground?
And when you watch this tape back, which I hope that you do, you'll see that you're not trusting that we can read your expression. And just remember that the camera is right up your nose. right? That we are seeing you from a distance of like closer than arm's length, right? So you can imagine like standing with somebody, basically you have to be snuggled up in bed with somebody like on the pillow opposite you to see them at the level of detail we see somebody in film and TV. And from that distance, if you try and make faces to show us, then all that shows is that the actor is self-conscious and thinks that we can't tell. Right? And so it was reading really nicely. And then you added a, and it's subtle, but it's not necessary. It reads as an actor trying to tell me how she's feeling, as opposed to a person having a reaction. Yeah, and how do you know what's too much until you try it, right? So I think that you're doing just the right thing by exploring it, by trying it, and I hope you go watch it back so you can go, oh, okay, actually those little micro expressions that go into my opinion work. They read. And then I can see the moment where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make a face to show. And it's not nearly as extreme as it was when I started working with you 2 years ago. Right? So this is a normal process of like, okay, more expressive. Now, we're going to take it back to us believable. Ultimately, we're going to blend them together. Okay.
So like for the underground, you just say it as it is. Like don't try and like go the underground.
No, I'm not talking about your delivery. I'm saying that you made some faces when you did not need to.
Oh.
And I don't want to get you thinking about your face. I'm not saying you need to think about your face more. What I'm saying is, I think you're thinking about your face a little too much. And you're not trusting that if you're connected out here and have an opinion, that your face will do just the right amount. That's what I'm saying. I love that you asked that question, Christina, because that thing that just happened, with Christina that's what it feels like when you're in the middle of it, right? I was saying, I was talking about face and gesture, and she's like, "Do you mean I'm saying it wrong?" Most normal thing in the world. That the focus, I think, for Christina's sort of early practice or her early impression of what acting was that acting was all about here's how you say the words. And that, over the last couple of years, it's been a slow progression of, oh, maybe that's not what story is, or maybe acting is not here's how to say it, and did I say it right, and instead the way that it comes out of me is evidence of other things. It's evidence of like this process happening in here. It's evidence of like what I'm imagining out in the world, but it's not as cut and dry as the sound of the words. They're information, but that's not what we're crafting on purpose, typically speaking. Sometimes if you're in voiceover, you do, but in film and TV, less. Okay, let's jump into looking at Duke's scene. So I gave Duke a scene from a show called Heartland as the grandfather. He's having a flirty moment at the barbecue with somebody who's like clearly, at least in this script, a love interest or a potential love interest.
You saved the best for why they worked out seriously.
Least I can do. I want to thank you for standing up for Amy.
No one needs to stand up for Amy. You're doing a good job, Jack.
Thanks. I didn't think I'd be doing it at my age.
I'm kind of in the same position. Not dipping on my nephew, but I don't think I have your talent for it.
I'm sure you're just fine. Yeah, but if there's anything we can do.
I might take you on that. Or he's a man in his life. Yes, and we all.
Just running low on burgers. Can't have that. I'll be right back.
Good. So I love the way you played with this moment here.
We can do.
Right, that's written right in the script, and it reads really genuine. Look at the warmth there, the awkwardness, when she kind of hits on you here at the end. This is something that hasn't come up in a tape before, Duke, but I think in this one, you'll hear that the other person's voice is so quiet that it's hard to understand the scene. So you may have overcorrected in terms of getting your reader to be very quiet. if you are looking for like ways to tweak or explore or maybe add a little bit more to your tape, one of the things that I think might be worth playing with is, what would it be like to read with somebody who's an actor? You know, whether that's asking a friend to do that or using one of these websites where you can access people often for free, like weaudition.com. Don't have any financial relationship with them. I just happen to use them for my own auditions. I think it's a great resource or asset because you don't have to book folks in advance. And I would be interested to see if that changes the process for you. And it might not. You might be like, well, when I'm reading with a stranger, I feel less comfortable, and that impacts the work. This opening moment, of you at the grill working on the burgers, again, easy, genuine. The lighting is good here. The skin tone, I know it was an issue with some of the past tapes, and I'm not seeing that as a problem here.
They say the best spot why they look serious.
Right? Look at this. Right? Like we can see that guy on TV, and he's got an eye light. It's nice and relaxed. That thing that we talked about last week, where there is like a forced smile, only shows up for like one moment right in the middle of the tape, and it's so brief, but I think that it is still something that's present and is worth thinking about. But that's not my focus here. What I would love to workshop in terms of looking at the scene today is to shift from the grill to the person. And I think that's riskier, but that there's more aliveness there. I think that's your moment before of like, I'm starting with the grill, you're seeing that I'm here at the barbecue. Great. Gives us a nice clear moment before, establishes a sense of place. But I think that the moment in the scene of like, look, I just want to really say thank you for that thing that you did. That was the spot to leave the burgers behind. And I also think that you fell into a trap of mime, which is doing exactly the same action over and over again in a meaningless way. Like, even if you were working burgers on a grill, it wouldn't involve just doing this with your arm over and over again for 40 seconds. Does it make sense? And so that's the trap with mime, is that when you do mime in a non-specific way, sometimes it begins to look non-specific or technical. And also that sometimes the scene starts to seem like it's about what the activity, and the scene ultimately still is about the relationship with the person you're talking to. And so if you start with a lot of warmth, like, man, that really value you, like, connective, we're having this conversation, so that she can catch you off guard with like, I like you. And you can go, shoo, yeah, oh, dab, going back to I gotta get out of here, right? Like that same moment that you had there, if it comes off of the connection with her, it's just riskier. It's more alive, potentially. So let's workshop this scene, and this is one of the things that I'm loving about being able to assign scenes, is then I can assign scenes that are short enough that we can really get into them. And so start with the grill, and then we'll jump in with the dialogue. So stand by. This is the best burger I have had, seriously.
Least I can do. I wanted to thank you for standing up for Amy.
No one needs to stand up for Amy. She just does just fine herself. You're doing a good job, Jack.
Thanks.
But then that's the forced smile, right? Like right? So it's and it's not wrong, the idea that that's how it lands on you. It's that if I see you do it on purpose, I am unclear, why you're doing a good job is making you laugh. So there's something about the back end of justifying that, that is reading as false to me, even if it feels totally honest to you. And there is always a tension there between like the subjective experience. It is possible to be like what feels really real, and for it on this side to be like something feels off. It looks or seems slightly off about it. But let's just workshop that moment and see if we can find something. So let's just run that one moment. Tell me. One of the things we could do is we can say the subtext out loud, right? So if I tell you you're doing a good job, what is the thought? What is the experience there? What's the sort of in between thought? Is it, wow, that's a relief, or is it like, I don't know, I kind of suck at this, or is it something else?
Relief and affirmation.
Relief and affirmation. Good. Well,
Yeah.
like then just I'm gonna say you're doing a good job, and just say like, that's nice to hear. You're doing a good job, Jack.
That's nice to hear.
Right? Good. Now give me that, but use the line. No one needs to stand up for Amy. She does just find herself. You're doing a good job, Jack.
Thanks. I didn't know I'd be doing it at my age.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same position. My sister went through a messy divorce, taken on my nephew, but I don't think I have your talent for it, right? And if you wanted the physicality, you could grab, like a towel, exactly, like wipe some of the barbecue off your hands. But again, it's specific, and it doesn't happen over and over and over again. Right? So I get it that like for me too, having action helps me stay in the scene in a way that's not like, I am now an actor. But you have to be more specific about it if you want it to read cleanly, I think. My sister, I went through a messy divorce, so I've taken on my nephew, and I don't think I have your talent for it.
I'm sure you're just fine. Line.
But if there's anything
But if there's anything we can do.
right, and they're just exactly just offering to help with the nephew. And then you look at her, and like, I might take up on that. Boy needs a man in his life. Heck, don't we all? And you just stay with her like, oh, wow, she's pretty, and I don't really know what to do with that. And burgers, got to deal with some burgers.
Jeez, we're almost out of burgers. Can't have that. I'll be right back.
And then he's off. Okay, and so I think that the warmth comes through, and maybe this is an analog to what I was talking about with Christina, is that the warmth comes through just fine. And maybe I'll ask Christina, can you see it? Like, he didn't have to smile for us to get the like, oh, that's a relief, right? Like, we got that little micro expression was enough. Whereas when he's like, ha, it's like, okay, I mean, maybe the character's written as jovial and he's like exploring or workshopping that, but it doesn't come across, like clearly or honestly, like Duke. It comes across like, oh, he's stretching into something. There's lots of times as an actor where it's useful to stretch into something, but there's a balance to be struck between like, this is what I want, and then just trusting it's going to come across. And something like this, where you are meant to be a like a lifelong rancher, it's probably not going to be all that expressive anyway.
I didn't know he was a rancher. Okay. Yep.
Right? Heartland's a horse show.
Okay.
Great, and so like didn't have that for context. And of course, if you were doing a real audition, you would like, you'd have the breakdown, you'd be able to go watch the trailer for the season, et cetera, et cetera. Good. Let's cut you off there and work on Alex a little bit. One of the things that I really like is that with both of the scenes, Christina's and Duke's, I didn't have to, or that the most alive thing in terms of adjusting it wasn't that first 10 seconds, right? So to me, that says that you've really internalized some of the practice from the last couple of weeks, where it was like, let's do the improv, like, let's get you into the scene in a way that's really alive. And you'll see with Alex's scene as well. It starts in a way that's really alive. He made, like what I consider like a very bold choice. And I think it's actually, this is a good example of a bold choice that is way off base. But it is very alive and interesting. It's just way off the script, where the character is supposed to be really nervous, and he starts with like he's just gotten out of bed. But something, it beats nothing, right? Like it's at least he's not starting like, I am waiting for the first line. That's what we don't want. We just want something. Reference Dia's tape from last week, where I was like, I've got all of these notes, and she's like, I got a callback. They love me. You don't have to be perfect. Incidentally, Dia sent me an email saying that the callback went really well. And if she's got Dia, if you've got audio, I would love, after we've looked at these last couple of scenes, to ask you how the improv went, so that you can tell us, even if we can't see you. But right now, let's watch Alex's tape. So this is a script where he is like the young guy. It's a cop show, and he's like the young guy who's tagging along on the drug deal, and he gets left behind with the undercover cops. And it's supposed to be clear that he's kind of like out of his depth with that.
So Angel's your uncle.
Sorry, no. My uncle's Fred, virgin. I'm just like Angel said, along for the ride.
Because you don't seem like the type to be here doing this.
Yeah, well, I am.
Really nice, Alex. There's that subtle brittleness, to it. The little bit of like posturing there. Incidentally, Alex is reading with himself in this, and you can see that the scene still really works. There's a couple of moments where the timing is a little bit off, but in the same way that Dia was reading with herself I think in the tape where she got a callback. Sometimes you just have to make do with what you've got. And in terms of make and do, this one you pulled up. Also, man, it looks great. Like, look at this, great highlight, nice clean background. He's in the middle. Hopefully I don't need to go over these things in too much detail every single time, but it's working. You're louder than your reader, all of these things.
And you're doing a great job.
What's the big deal? A few $1,000? I've seen money before.
A few thousand. That's $1 million there.
$1 million?
Hey, sit down.
You told me this wasn't.
Great. So his reader, has the line, hey, you've got to sit down. So he has to react enough to make that make sense. And I love this reaction, Alex. I love the way you jumped in. I love that you gave it stakes, right? There's risk there.
You think?
It's your first one.
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Didn't know. He was all over prepared, like with you guys. Soon as he heard your names, he got your boyfriend's rap shit sent to him, just to see what he looked like. You okay?
I have to go.
Go? Where? That wasn't the deal.
Sorry, but I have.
No, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So Alex, a little bit like Christina the other week, I just want to say really nice work with this tape.
Thank you so much.
Right? Like there are some little ways that we could tweak it maybe, but it's also possible that workshopping it would be useful, interesting for exploration, but wouldn't actually make the work any better. The work you did here is really alive. The reactions are alive. You've got an opinion about the money. You've got an opinion about the lady. Yeah, I think that like maybe the moment where I would get in there if we could, is the moment where it's like you're freaking out and then you notice her, having a hard time, and so there still is the situation you're in where you're in charge of like keeping an eye on her so things don't go sideways, right? That's why your uncle's giving you this gun. That's why, right? So yes, you're new, yes, you're nervous, but like also the lady you're with is potentially a threat, which is why you pulled the gun on her at the end. And I think that you lost sight of that a little bit because you got into the reaction and then we lost the circumstances a little bit. And I think that maybe that would have like led us into the end a little bit more cleanly. But I think that what you gave me here was enough that if they were like, yeah, we like this guy, we like his voice, that's what we want, they could call you back and work with you, to take it in the direction that they wanted. Oh, and I will say that, like, man, I love that you started with something, but like right, anything, literally anything's better than nothing. But like the yawn for me personally, I'm like, what? What was that about?
Can I explain why?
Of course.
Because in the page above, it says
interior abandoned restaurant night, and on my scene it says interior abandoned restaurant day. So I thought they were spending the night there. My scene the next day, but in the very morning.
Gotcha. You know, and I think that given that it's supposed to be tense, you know, that it just took us off the tone of this scene, you know, where some of her early lines are like you seem like not the type, and you know, like you're really jumpy.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. You know, but that said, like, I don't know, man, you know, like there's certain, you're not going to see more like that, you know, and so if you're going to make a choice like that, I just be careful not to lean into it too hard. Right? I feel like you tried to lean into the yawn on the line, and so the line sounded theatrical, you know, but the yawn didn't look theatrical at the top. But then when you tried to talk with it, it's like, okay, no, I see what you're doing there. You know,
I wasn't really trying to act.
see, and you know, that's just the way that it landed on me. Right, is it landed a little bit like, oh, there's an actor like trying to do the thing. And again, I don't think that that's a deal breaker, right? Like, it looks good, you got the reactions. You know, if I'm watching this, I'm going to watch that first 15 seconds at least, and I'm going to see that initial transition with the like fragility of the new guy. You know, and for me, that's enough, you know, to hook me. Now, everybody who watches these are going to have a slightly different opinion, but you know, I think you did really nice work here.
Thank you so much. My intention with the yawn was to like stop it right when she says, but all of a sudden, too long.
But then you actually were yawning while doing the tape. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that we've had 2 tapes in a row now where somebody had to read with themselves and they still pulled off a great job. You know, so with any of the things I'm saying in class, it's like, yeah, here's the stuff we're shooting for, and our circumstances are always going to be imperfect. You know, so thank you for those examples. And it's better to see it than to hear me say it, right? You hear me say it and you're like, meh, but then you see it and you're like, oh yeah, wow, like that scene totally worked. I would believe that Alex was having a conversation with somebody, you know, for 95% of that scene.
Cool. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah. And you know, we're at 11:59, Shoku, and because I haven't had a chance to review your tape yet, is it all right if we workshop it next time? Because I'm a little nervous about like watching it for the first time, you know, here with everybody.
Hi, all. Yes, of course. Sorry, you know, many things happens to.
Oh, please
I not
don't
come
worry about it.
today to class, but I fight that I wanted to come.
And I did watch the first, you know, couple of seconds, and so we can at least look at this. We look at this like right away. You know, we get she's a substitute teacher, you know, and so I think that that's really clear, you know, in this tape. Right, like the Shoku's been, you know, playing with wardrobe, and man, this self-tape setup so much better. Like the lighting, you know, she's pulled back a little bit so we can see a little bit more of her body. As far as a medium close-up goes, this is still fine. Like Christina's like very tight medium close-up, and Shoku's like pulled back medium close-up. Both absolutely appropriate for a film and TV audition.
Is this really how he usually does it?
Right, we got a good eye light here.
Okay. How about if you give me a vocabulary test?
And so that's as far as I got, you know, because I downloaded this like 30 seconds before class, Shoku. But I will say that for the start of this, your camera setup is great. You know, these wardrobe choices are, you know, really tell me the story of, you know, teacher, substitute teacher, just like that. You know, for anybody who's thinking about like what's something to add to, you know, my collection, pair of glasses. Look at this. She's not even wearing the glasses, and already we get the sense that she's smarter, right? Like that, you know, like hitting a dollar store, you know, or a secondhand store and getting a pair of glasses and like popping the lenses out, you know, or just even wearing them on her head for this was like, oh, great. Okay. Raises her IQ by 20 points, just having them in the frame. You know, that's the way that glasses are often used in storytelling. Shogu, I would say that your pacing here is way, way, way too slow. That you're extending all of your words, and absolutely people do that when they really talk, sometimes very selectively, but especially if we want to believe you, and if you want to retape this, then for next week we can look at both of them together, and I think that might be a useful exercise for you. But I would say my first impulse here is that you're taking so much time that I don't believe you. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
And
Thank you.
it's
I
really
will record again for next week, maybe.
yeah, I would love that, and then we can look at both and I can, show the comparison, because I haven't had a chance to do that in this lesson yet, to say, here's the first tape, here's the second tape, and I'll watch this rest of the tape after the class is over, and then I'll email you some more notes, so that
Sure.
you get some more useful stuff there.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Dia, before we wrap, will you tell us how your callback went?
Yeah, so it's actually like 12:30 in India right now. So I'm actually in India. I'm in Mumbai. I actually just wanted to give feedback. I think I reflected on my tape and I realized why maybe they gave me the callback. It's because I focused on the style of the director and I watched a lot of his previous work. And now I realize why style is the first question in your questionnaire. I realize why you have to kind of maybe change it. So anyway, so the callback went great. I took your note on pacing. They really liked it. I did 1-2 variations in the room. And in the room was definitely better, not acting with myself. And yeah, great all around. But style is the big takeaway I took for the first time in this experience, and how important it is to understand who you're auditioning for and what type of films or projects they make, and how you can sort of tweak maybe your tape accordingly. Yeah.
Great. And this is the questions list that Dia is referring to. This styles right there. It's like right after what's happening on the page. It's like, what kind of show is this? Thank you for that. And did they ask you to do improv or say anything about improv in the callback? Because that was something you asked last lesson that I wasn't sure how to answer, and I was very curious about how that played out.
I think I could be wrong. I don't want to generalize. So I've done a fair bit of work in Indian Bollywood, and in that, what I've noticed is that they rely heavily on improv. Maybe because the turnaround is so quick. And so in this one, I just kind of went for it, and they kind of believed the improv,
Awesome.
I guess.
Good. I love it. Something that you said last lesson, that I thought was really significant. You were like, this is the first one where I just like decided to just total abandon, just go for it. And that's the one that you got really positive feedback on, that feels meaningful to me.
I think instead of trying to act like a rich, snobby brat, I just sort of like acted irritated. I picked an emotion instead of picking a character, and I think they liked that irritated person. And so that also maybe just reflecting back now, I think instead of playing the character, I played the emotion, or just something more specific. And that's
right. You had that opinion, and then you trusted the outfit and the cheekbones to do the work for you.
Yeah, a little bit of that.
Yeah, good. I mean, but that's exactly how it should work, right? Then we don't see. Something that I heard this week was like a casting director quoted as saying, like, we cast based on people's essence, and I think that that's really fun to pull apart. I've heard multiple casting directors say this. I think that is genuinely their opinion, that they are actually casting people's essence, in the same way that producers will often say, like, yeah, that Duke's just like that as a person, and that's why we want to cast him that way. And so I think that we should see that as the goal when we go in for an audition, is for them to say, not like, oh wow, I really see what Michael Biehn was trying to do with that audition, but for them to see, like, wow, yeah, he's just like that, huh? Like, he's just an ex-wrestler killer, or he's just like the kind, sweet grandpa, but like that, and regardless of how we're choosing to go in, that the the best outcome is that we walk out and producers and casting are like, oh, I haven't witnessed acting. I've witnessed a piece of this person's essence as a human. And it's just one more way, I think, of me gathering evidence for this idea that believability is on top when people are making decisions. I would love to quickly hear takeaways, from class. We're a little bit over time, so we don't have a lot of time for it. But something that that I really value is like, we just spent an hour workshopping together. What's standing out for you as personally interesting or useful? Christina, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah, I think what I've learned is that to not force the reactions, like how you said, like don't plan what you're going to do. It's like kind of in the moment, like the camera can see your like reactions very close by. So by you just like having those small reactions, like you can just make you think you have to show the audience, but that's like more kind of theater. But for acting, like the screen is so up close to you that even a small tiny reaction will show the audience what you're feeling, what you were trying to show them.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'm gonna work on a lot, is like not trying to show my face and be like, huh? But to kind of just like let it flow, like be natural with it. So I think I'm really gonna take that advice.
Yeah, I loved that you got to witness it in Duke right after your work, because I think that's what really helps land it. It's like, if it's just you, then you might be like, no, I'm not sure. But then you get to see it in somebody else and you're like, oh yeah, crystal clear. Yeah, that the subtlety and depth of that is more interesting. Duke, takeaway from class?
Well, to expound on what you said about the lack of my smile being genuine or something, I think that goes back to me not wanting to be vulnerable as a person and putting on my mask. Hey, everything's all right. And that's probably been a defensive mechanism since I was a kid. Something heavily to think about and make myself a better person and actor.
Beautiful, and something to for the moment to be like, that is a possible thing for every one of your characters. Like right now, it's just like, if that's true and alive for you, great. Like, man, that really works for a rancher. Like I know some ranchers. Yeah, and so it can be both and. But I'd love you reflecting on it. Thank you, Alex.
My takeaway is that to use our bodies to or enhance our opinion about something, not just words.
Okay, beautiful work today. I feel like we got a lot done, in just an hour, and I really value each of you taking the time to put in the work, to share it with us. And I am seeing the lessons from the first couple of weeks getting integrated into these tapes in a way that's really exciting. So it'll be really fun at the end of 8 weeks. Basically, over the summer hiatus, I'm going to go back and pull the videos from some of these lessons and be like, here was Shoku on week 1, here was Shoku on week 8. And do some like retrospectives, which is one of the reasons for the video releases. But I'm excited, to be like revisiting the work over the summertime, and I promise I'll tag you when I send it out so that it's going out in the world. All right, bye everybody. See you next week.
Thank you, Michael. Bye.
My pleasure.